Welcome back to RPTV Weekly News. My name is Jabin and my co-hosts are Fred and Kedar. We present news that impacts on Regent Park and the surrounding areas.
In this episode, we present the following news for the week of October 16th to October the 26th. TDSB Trustee Deborah Williams hosts Ward 10 Forum at Nelson Mandela Park Public School. City of Toronto Housing Report proposes a generational change of the housing system. City unveils winter 23-24 homelessness strategy as shelter systems are already at capacity. Citadel Dance Program 23-24 provides dance classes to the children in Regent Park. 2 men charged with second-degree murder in the connection with a shooting in the area of Sherbourne and Dundas Street. Toronto residents protest in front of a proposed respite center. Events and jobs in Regent Park.
TDSB Trustee Deborah Williams hosts Ward 10 Forum at Nelson Mandela Park Public School. On October 19, 2023, Deborah Williams, Toronto District School Board Trustee for Ward 10 University Rosedale Centre, hosted a forum to discuss school community safety, supporting student achievement, well-being, and mental health at the Nelson Mandela Public Park School, 440 Shooter Street. Trustee Deborah Williams began the meeting with land acknowledgement and welcoming words by Nelson Mandela Park Public School Principal Sudeep Sanyal. At the forum, Executive Superintendent Jack Nigro provided updates highlighting the emergence of local safety tables across the city as a result of a December 2022 report on a collaborative approach to school and community safety to tackle safety concerns across the city. One local safety table is actively operating in Regent Park, working in partnership with community local organizations to meet the needs of students in the neighborhood.
Since this is a meeting focused on safety, I wanted to report to the group on the Regent Park Community's local safety table. And this local safety table has arisen from a report that was filed in December of 2022 called A Collaborative Approach to School and Community Safety at TDSB Board. And it was really a response to some of the concerns around safety across the city. And so that report generated a board-wide committee looking at safety issues in the entire city of Toronto. Another subset of committees that emerged from that report were local safety tables. And we have, I think, 4 of them operating right now. One upcoming in Parkdale, and one that's active right now is in Regent Park. And so we've had 3 meetings of the local safety table. The first was July 7th, and it brought together partners from the area, service partners from the area like Wanasa, Regent Park Community Center, Dixon Hall, K-Club, and others, Pathways, to talk about meeting the needs of students in this area and greater connections between school and community organizations. So our first meeting was July 7th, and we talked about things like partnerships and how to form official partnerships with TDSB, which involves a process. And we got to meet each other. And our second meeting was August 28th, where we talked about permitting and some of the ins and outs of permitting space in our buildings. And our third meeting was actually today at Lord Dufferin, where we heard about initial conversations that have been happening between the 5 organizations that I named and schools like Spruce Court, Nelson Mandela, and Lord Dufferin. And so those discussions are ongoing. We have we're hoping for some meetings next week to begin to discuss details of the types of needs that we have as a school community in those 3 school communities, and the types of services that might be available from those community organizations, and begin our work together. So it really is we're trying to meet individual needs of communities, so it will not necessarily be the same in all 3 schools. And I think that the discussions have been very fruitful so far in terms of understanding what the issues have been historically for support organizations and getting access to our schools. Some of you will know that our buildings are permitted quite extensively, and it's been a challenge in some communities to get space. So we've had those discussions. We've had very practical discussions also around the need for these community organizations to actually be in our buildings to provide those services, and then the logistical considerations that come with those around opening up space and getting consent from parents for students to be interacting with these organizations. So that's a brief update on the Regent Park, the local safety table in Regent Park. More to come. And as I said, there are a number of these tables across the city, and they are established based on data that we get from SafeTO. That's another Toronto-based organization that provides some stats on where there are incidents of concern.
Mary Linton and Jennifer Chan, Superintendent of Education, respectively provided updates on the school improvement planning, system goals on Indigenous education, achievements integrated with equity, school belongings, and well-being.
Right now, principals and admin teams are looking at engaging with the stakeholders. And who are the stakeholders? Well, they're the students, they're the families, the parents, and staff. And trying to get information, data. They're collecting data now. Data can look at in a variety of ways. So we could have EQAO data, we could have census data, we could have report card data, we could have focus groups that they may have, or surveys. So it could be a council meeting and they're asking you a question about how you're feeling about something. So the schools are gathering data, and they're identifying, with that data, they're identifying some issues, they're setting goals, and some goals may be new goals that they're setting this year, or they may be a continuation of goals that they were working on last year. Okay, so because sometimes you don't quite get to finish, you're still striving to move forward. And when they set the goals, they're now also developing a learning plan. So what are we going to be working with the adults in the school? What do they need to learn? And so that's where they might survey staff. We don't know a lot about this particular area. Let's get some speakers in, etc. Okay, I also wanted to talk a little bit about one of the strategies that the board has. It's the Combating Hate, Race, and Racism Student Learning Strategy. And basically that strategy has 6 components, and again, it's going to look different, unfold differently in each of your schools, but there's an area around classroom instruction, and so that can be tied to the school improvement plan. Okay, what are we teaching our students about combating hate and racism? Caregiver engagement and learning. So that's where we can bring in our school councils. What does the school need? What do the parents want to learn about? How can we bring parents together around different issues? There's a section around cyber safety and digital citizenship, student leadership. And so around this time, you may be seeing things in the school communication around different student groups. We really want our students to be the leaders in the school. If we're going to change anything, it's going to come from the grassroots up, and so that we're really encouraging leaders at different levels. Tools for response and taking action, and so that's skill building. So what are we teaching? We may have our student groups. What are we teaching them so that they'll be able to be on the schoolyard and start to question, to say, oh, we can't act like that, so working together, sort of like peer mediating, a variety of strategies. And the strategies are for the adults as well. Okay, we don't claim to know everything. We all have learning that we need to do as well. And the last area is around educational partnerships. And you heard Jack talk about partnerships and the fact that we're safety table and we're bringing community partners in. We love to be able to do that. That can take the form of speakers, presentations. You can have parent evenings as well in the classroom, excursions, things like that.
Superintendent Jennifer Chan highlighted the beginning of the school year and the importance of the building relationships at school level between all stakeholders, students, teachers, and parents, and the use of parent concern protocol to address questions and concerns.
One thing that I just wanted to remind, it's the beginning of the year, and relationship building is really key. Those relationships that are developed at the school between student and teacher, teacher and parent, and those are really key. And so sometimes we take those relationships for granted, but I think we really want to develop those healthy, trusting relationships at the school level. I know that on the back of this that's been given out, there's the parent protocol and steps to address questions and concerns. And you'll notice it always starts with the classroom teacher. I've taken a lot of calls sometimes where, I always have to try to say, go back to the school and try to help build those relationships, with the teachers. And that is the first go-to. It is really the adult that knows your child and sees your child every single day. And we really rely on that teacher input and relationship. Of course, sometimes you need to speak beyond the teacher and the classroom, and the principal is a great person to be reaching out to next. And I find that sometimes I get calls to my office and they haven't reached out to the principal, and that is another relationship that needs to be built. And of course, sometimes our role does involve assisting and mediating and so forth and helping to build those relationships. But wherever possible, we really want to encourage those strong relationships at the school level.
Following the superintendent update, there was an open discussion on the Regent Park safety table updates. After the Regent Park safety table discussion, Deborah Williams shared a presentation on expert reference panel on school safety and student well-being. The Ward 10 forum ended with an opportunity for Q&A and comments.
City of Toronto. Housing report proposes a housing system generational change. On October the 24th, the City of Toronto released a staff report, Generational Transformation of Toronto's Housing System, to urgently build more affordable homes, which charts a way forward to transform Toronto housing systems and improve housing outcomes for low and middle income residents of Toronto. The report responds to the City of Toronto Council's direction to develop a plan to approve 25,000 new rent-controlled homes in addition to what was already planned, thereby increasing the city's total housing target to 65,000 new rent-controlled homes by 2030. Currently, almost 79% of all rental housing is privately owned, compared to with 15% owned by the Toronto Community Housing Corporation, the TCHC, and 6% owned by nonprofit and cooperative housing providers, according to the city. The housing-ready sites in consideration for city-led developments are 405 Sherbourne Street, 150 Queens Wharf Road, 1113-1117 Dundas Street West, 25 Bellevue Avenue, and 11 Brock Avenue. In order to achieve its goals, the city estimates it will need between $28.6 billion and $31.5 billion over the next 7 years. On top of the financial backing it has already received to build 4,455 homes.
In the past decade, City of Toronto have not been building the kind of housing people of Toronto need. We need a fundamentally transformational approach, a different approach. One, we act with urgency and renewed sense of commitment to make sure that everyone can find a place called home. As mayor, I've committed to building 25,000 more homes above what the city is already planning, and this is my top priority. At the August Executive Committee meeting, I asked staff to take the necessary action and come up with a plan to make this commitment a reality. Today, there's an incredibly important staff report going to the Executive Committee next week. It's a generational transformation of Toronto housing system to urgently build more affordable homes. This is a roadmap. It is a generational change that will shift how the city delivers housing and what kind of housing we prioritize. First major shift is how we deliver housing. We are bringing together different departments, agencies that create housing, create TO, Toronto Community Housing, and others, so that every department, everyone working for the city is pulling in the same direction using the same roadmap, which is, of course, to build housing fast. The staff report lists 52 sites across the city divisions and agencies that are ready to build. These can become purpose-built rental buildings with thousands of affordable housing, rent geared to income, and rent control units. The list of sites is our roadmap for building new housing. The second shift in this report is the kind of housing the city will be building. Why is it transformational? Because for the first time in decades, it is people-centered and not market-centered. Our definition of affordable housing is rent geared to income dependent on the person's income, a third of the person's income, not 80% of market. Because 80% of market had not been successful in housing people, because 80% of market for many are still unaffordable. Even with 2 full-time jobs, is still unaffordable for a couple. So instead of market 80%, we're saying is a third, it's income-based. We're also going to be partnering with nonprofit organizations, over 31 sites. There will be MOU signed, memorandum of agreement with many nonprofit organizations, with indigenous organizations that have built affordable housing for a long time. And we are seeking to partner with United Way and Atkinson Foundation, and starting the Toronto Housing Affordability Fund is ambitious. We're going to build housing ourselves. This report identified 5 sites that we can start building ourselves. We are reversing the destructive thinking that have over the past 2 decades, and this thinking is that only private sector can build housing, and that the municipal or federal, provincial government cannot do so. Well, why is it destructive? Because look at the housing crisis in front of us. The City of Toronto is ready to build, and we are building, and right now we have the finance in place to build 4,500 units. Nowhere near enough. But if we're going to make a big difference in this housing crisis, we need partnership from the federal and provincial government. With other orders of government at the table, we can build 17,000 homes for people in just a few years. And with the changes we're making at the city, we could expedite these developments. We've presented our list of sites. We're ready to go. We invite other governments to join us and get housing built fast. The roadmap is, and the path in front of us is ambitious. It is urgently needed. I can't stand by as more and more people are pushed out of our city or into homelessness. So let's get building. Let's get building more affordable homes. Let's do it now.
The report is set to be reviewed by the Executive Committee on October the 31st and by the City Council from November the 8th to November the 10th, 2023.
City unveils Winter 2023-24 homelessness strategy as shelter system already at capacity. On October 17th, City of Toronto unveiled a winter services plan that includes 4 warming centers, 180 beds into existing shelters, and a 24 respite site providing another 40 spaces, which will open on November 15 and remain open until April next year. The city's plan to add 180 extra beds into existing shelters relies on reducing space between beds in most shelter programs to the pre-pandemic distance of 0.75 meters. Last year, the winter shelter plan included 230 additional spaces to bridge the gap from November to April. Starting in mid-November, warming centers will open when the temperature drops to -5°C, marking a departure from the previous threshold, which was set at -15°C. The 4 warming centers will be located at 136 Spadina Road, 75 Elizabeth Street, 15 Olive Avenue, and 885 Scarborough Golf Club Road. The city budget $660 million for emergency shelter in Toronto this year, a figure that has now grown to $741 million. Even before the coldest weather hits, city officials are acknowledging their winter plan may not be enough. For years, Toronto has struggled with an escalating homelessness crisis. Last September, 8,200 people were using the shelter system on an average night, a number that's since risen to 9,102 as October 15, 2023. Both men's and women's shelters are completely full. Gord Tanner, General Manager of the Shelter Support and Housing Administration to the city, said Toronto is seeing unprecedented pressure on the shelter system due to uninflated cost of living, insufficient affordable housing supply, and an increase in the number of refugee claimants arriving in Toronto. Tanner noted that 278 people on average were turned away daily from shelters in September for lack of space. This is an escalating and deepening crisis, Tanner told reporters, as he and City Councillor Alejandro Bravo, chair of the Economic and Community Development Committee, echoed the city's call to higher levels of government for aid, while appealing for any Toronto organization with extra space to contact city officials. According to City Hall, more than 1,500 people per night are currently being accommodated outside of the city's shelters, in churches, community organization spaces, hotels, and Red Cross facilities. About 40% of the people in shelters are refugee claimants, and the city doesn't have a clear picture of how many more Toronto residents might need shelter space as temperatures continue to drop. Tanner added that the federal government must immediately establish a reception center for refugee claimants when they first arrive in Canada. Right now, there is no centralized place for them to go. So what do? Some go to a church, some come to 129 Peter Street, some don't know where to go, and that is unacceptable, Tanner said. We need a reception center that we can properly support and fund, and we will partner with the federal government to do that. But that is desperately required in this situation as we head into the winter. There is no long-term solution on the horizon without help from higher levels of government, Tanner said. The city has been calling repeatedly for federal support to help over its $1.5 billion budget hole.
I want to stress that the Winter Services Plan may continue to evolve as we monitor demand at our warming centers and continue the search for appropriate locations to add capacity. Staff have connected with real estate brokers, faith-based leaders, community groups, and other city divisions and agencies throughout the year to find additional space for warming centers, and we will continue that search. Last year at this time, based on our second quarter budget forecast, we were projected to spend a total of $660 million to provide emergency shelter and wraparound supports for people experiencing homelessness. The city's contribution at that time was $470 million. We stated then, until there is greater commitment by all levels of government to help address the complex elements of Toronto's homelessness issue, the city's shelter system will remain and continue at capacity and under strain. 1 year later, that statement is more true than ever before. The unmet need has become worse. Based on our second quarter budget forecast in 2023, we anticipate spending $741 million this year providing emergency shelter support for people experiencing homelessness. And the city's contribution to that has grown to $525 million. We know that meaningful impacts can be made when other orders of government step up and step forward with funding, with coordination, and with resource commitments. In August and September of this year, the city and the province of Ontario moved quickly to expand the Canada-Ontario Housing Benefit to help refugee claimants and other people experiencing homelessness secure housing. New funding committed by the city and the province to the Canada-Ontario Housing Benefit will help approximately 2,050 households move from homelessness into housing. At the end of September, the program has been able to refer 531 households to permanent housing, 85% of which are refugee claimants. But this infusion of new funding into the COB program will help more people access stable housing, and by enabling them to exit the shelter system, it will create more space for those in need. This is an example of what different orders of government can do when they work together. The federal government has been a good partner to the City of Toronto and has provided assistance to cover the full costs of refugee claimants in the shelter system in past years. The City has been meeting with the federal government for more than 1 year and continues to have regular meetings stressing the urgent need for help and support with respect to the number of refugee claimants arriving in Toronto. During the last few weeks, about 300 claimants have been moved from churches and from 129 Peter Street to hotels run by Immigration, Refugee and Citizenship Canada in communities across Ontario. And we are grateful for the support that has been provided, but it must continue throughout the coming months and beyond as more people flee their homes and seek a future of safety in Canada. We also require urgent action to establish a reception center for refugee claimants as they arrive, where they can be connected to essential services and supports, including shelter and housing throughout the province. There are growing concerns for the long-term sustainability of our existing shelter infrastructure, as the city's current long-term capital plan is insufficient to meet the needs of the system and the people that rely on it. The city's winter services plan addresses the need for space during cold weather season, but it is not a plan for the overall permanent growth in shelter system capacity. To bring more stability into the shelter system and to ensure there's adequate shelter space available for those that need it today and into the future, new investments and approaches to shelter infrastructure are required. The 2024 to 2033 Homelessness Services Capital Infrastructure Strategy has been developed to proactively inform the city's capital spending decisions and to promote recovery and stability in the city's shelter system. It is crucial to invest in shelter for people in immediate housing crisis and for people experiencing homelessness that are living outdoors until adequate housing solutions are in place and there are more people being housed every month than entering homelessness. The strategy outlines how the city will meet short, medium, and long-term goals to transition from an emergency-focused pandemic response to long-term proactive approach to capital planning in Toronto's shelter system. The report seeks approval for a plan to exit from some of the very high-cost, short-term temporary shelter programs and instead build out the number of purpose-built permanent shelters. Funding will also go towards other projects needed to support recovery and stability in the shelter system, including moderately growing shelter capacity in areas where there is significant need, such as with families, with young people and youth, with refugees, and with Indigenous peoples, and developing a flex space to help facilitate expected state of good repair projects that necessitate client relocation. Over the long term, the goal is to increase the proportion of permanent sites in the shelter system, which will allow us to, and the city, to transition individuals to smaller locations that are purpose-built and can better meet the needs of shelter residents while integrating well into existing communities. Homelessness is a complex social issue. It requires commitment from all orders of government, community agencies and stakeholders to work together to provide funding along with public, social, and health-related supports. The city's goal is to deliver person-centered, outcome-focused services to help improve the overall well-being of individuals experiencing homelessness and to help them find and keep stable housing as quickly as possible. The city is committed to making homelessness rare, brief, and non-reoccurring, but it can't do it alone. That's why we will continue to work closely with provincial and federal governments on a new deal to secure ongoing funding for emergency shelters and long-term investment in supportive and affordable housing and access to critical support programs that help prevent people from entering homelessness. I'd now like to introduce Councillor Bravo, Chair of the Economic and Community Development Committee.
Thank you, Gord. Good morning, everyone. I think that you can see from this presentation and these remarks that the public service is approaching this crucial city service with renewed energy and vigor. And I think it really lives up to the expectations that are being generated in the public in Toronto, where the majority of people recognize the scale and need is unprecedented. And we are looking ahead to a really difficult winter. We know that more asylum seekers will be arriving. Evictions are occurring more regularly. The cost of living is really impacting people. And of course, now I think we're in a place where the City Council recognizes that homelessness is an emergency. And so what you have before you is a really important baseline to approach this problem. I want to say that while we need more support, and those words are very clear in terms of the funding partnerships and relationships that we need with the other orders of government, there are some positive developments in this plan. Warming centers opening at -5 degrees instead of -15 is really listening to all of the healthcare and frontline experts who told us that that's absolutely necessary to make sure that people aren't facing injury and death out in the cold. It means that warming centers will be open more days and there will be more predictability. And I think that's really important for people that work with the unhoused in the city. It also signifies a really important return to the notion of respite. Respite is something that advocates and frontline workers have been calling on the City of Toronto to lift up. It's a low barrier, 24/7 way to get indoors, and at 40 spaces. It's not going to meet the entire need, but it is a good start. And of course, we are talking about looking ahead in a very proactive and deliberate way for building out the shelter system that we need. We need more this winter, though. We need more locations for surge capacity as the winter gets colder at -15. We need extra space. And we know that our current capacity is insufficient. So I just want to put out an open call to all partners in the city, business community, institutions, other orders of government with public lands. Come on board, help out, because we need every partner in this city to meet the need. And I want to say your city needs you right now. We're also really clearly calling on the federal and provincial government to help address a number of things. Number one, it is a federal responsibility to attend to asylum seekers, refugees in this city. And there's always been a historic provincial role there, and we need them to play that. because it's putting so much pressure on the shelter system, and we've heard that more of a surge is coming. And we know that so often the impacts that we're dealing with in the City of Toronto or in any municipality really have to do with the funding and policy decisions that are made at provincial and federal levels. And so we also need their help to meet the crisis that in many ways we have to contend with, but without the tools needed to attend to it. And part of the work, as I said, is really looking further ahead, not just beyond this winter. I'm very excited about this. Moving from not reacting, but to planning, to build a real strategy for growing and expanding the shelter system, as well as investing in permanent housing. These things go together. Shelter, respite, they're an important step on the ladder back into a home. And the Homelessness Services Capital Infrastructure Strategy is a 10-year plan with outcomes that we can start seeing as soon as next year. That's very exciting. It's a proactive approach to thinking through the city's shelter challenges and how to respond to the serious need, focusing on maximizing the impact of public funds to ensure that the city has the resources in place to build out the capacity that we need. By building out city-owned spaces, instead of relying on short-term leases and rentals, this is an important goal, because we can provide better shelter services, and it's better value for money. It's better value for money for the city and the investments we need to make, and it's better for value for money for unhoused people in the city. We need this kind of proactive approach for every stage of the housing continuum, from emergency shelter to transitional housing to permanent supportive and affordable housing. And this is the work that we have ahead of us. I am sure that with a deep and committed partnership from the federal and provincial government, we'll really be able to make a difference, and I urge them to join us. Thanks.
And my name is Gabriel, and this is a report from RPTV News. Downtown Toronto neighborhood divided over city's plan to open new respite center. A downtown Toronto neighborhood is divided after the city recently announced plans to open a new 24-hour respite center for people experiencing homelessness just a few hundred feet from a supervised injection site. The site in question is a commercial building located at 629 Adelaide Street West, just west of Bathurst Street, in what is known as the Niagara region. The respite site is set to open in early 2024, which will eventually accommodate up to 80 people. The center is 110 meters from St. Mary's Catholic Elementary School and 350 meters from Niagara Street Public School. This new facility essentially replaces the now closed respite center at 25 Augusta Ave, which is currently being redeveloped into 31 units of long-term affordable housing. That center in the Queen West area was operated by St. Felix Center, which services to marginalized communities who are experiencing homelessness, and will also be running the new respite site on Adelaide. They claim that the community was not directly informed or consulted about this development. Local parents, residents, and business owners have since come together to form a group they called the Niagara Neighbors for Community Safety, as they launched an online petition in their opposition to the center in this location. The main concern is related to the public safety impact in a densely populated neighborhood, the high volume of shelters and other social service programs in the area, and the new respite site's proximity to a supervised consumption site. More than 200 residents gathered outside the building at 629 Adelaide Street West on Wednesday, October 26th, including MP for Spadina, Fort York, Kevin Vuong, to show their opposition and to demand the City of Toronto consult the community before moving further with the plan. They said the protest was their fourth gathering to voice their concerns. And while some welcome this low-barrier social services program in their community, others say the city needs to find another home for it elsewhere.
Yeah, I guess after talking to a few people, I think it's ignorance in a way. People are afraid, they don't know about what, they don't know the reaction, but the stereotypes, the homeless people who need social security or benefits, are usually dangerous, drug addicts, alcoholics, so people want to keep them away. But what I found, the real problem is how the Canadian government is wasting our taxpayers' money, sending and supporting illegal wars that are making the world much, much dangerous to all of us. All the money that's sent to Israel or to Ukraine should be invested in Canadians who need it now. The money could go into education and support for the people who need it. Give people an opportunity, and then you will see less homeless on the streets, and people in the communities will be much safer and happier. Like in the past with Pierre Trudeau. Canada was a neutral country. Canada sent peacemakers around the world, but now we are putting Americans and their wars to be supremacists in the entire world, and that is wrong. So the issue of not supporting the homelessness is not that clear, and people have to help with a bit of education and see how we could actually use money, taxpayers' money, in more creative ways for the security of all. I would go back to giving people an opportunity with education, jobs, community support, because people don't want to be on the streets. But if you give them an opportunity to actually get some education, people will get jobs. Nobody wants to be on social assistance for a long time. Like, we all need some kind of assistance in our lives. And the people have to use their budgets in more creative ways to actually support the communities, to make safer cities. But if there's no budget, we all blame poor people for all the problems, and that's totally wrong.
People are demanding to be heard. They think it's incredibly unfair that they're having this decision undemocratically forced on them. And they're not saying, don't do this. What they're saying is, give us a seat at the table. They're concerned about safety. They're concerned about the city's decision to force a low barrier, 24/7, which no central intake respite site right here, which would sandwich the elementary school between it and a drug injection site.
I am completely convinced that we can absolutely stop this, because it would be insanity for it to proceed.
This location here behind me is the position of our local municipal government is that they are going to create a low barrier 24-hour respite site here for the community. The problems that are surrounded around that is that we have 8 other types of shelters in a block radius around this school with an additional safe injection site, which is just on the other side of the school. That comes to 9. This would be number 10 in a small knit community. Our local councillor has been invited, Ozma, has been invited on a number of occasions to attend our rallies. This is our 4th, of course. This is the first time we've emailed her, called her to attend or to have one-to-one consultations with nothing, no response. We've attended City Hall just yesterday, and it was the first time that we were able to see her. These 4 sessions, online sessions, were developed, but we're muted. We're not able to disclose our concerns or address any of any questions that we have here today. Our first stance is that it's not going to happen. Our community has gotten extremely strong, from seniors to children to advocates to community members. We have been very strong. We will not give up. I anticipate that the community will have to hear us. We are close to 1,500 signatures just in this small knit community. So our recommendation is that our councillor needs to start listening. We have gone a little bit above, and we will continue to fight before any construction or any other consultation will happen to redevelop this area.
Citadel Dance Program provides dance classes to children in Regent Park. Established in 2012, the Citadel Dance Program, led by Artistic Director Laurence Lemieux, provides weekly dance classes on Saturdays for children in our local community of Regent Park, allowing students to learn from some of the best dance teachers and cultivating a new sense of confidence and self-respect through the arts. The Citadel Dance Program at 304 Parliament Street returns for in-studio weekend dance classes, beginning October 14, 2023, with classes for students in junior kindergarten to grade 6 in creative movement, ballet, Bharatanatyam, and tap. This accessible local program runs from October 14, 2023 until May 11, 2024, and welcomes students of all levels of training and experience, from curious beginners to practiced movers, and work to foster a positive, inclusive environment that provides the individual development and creative expression of each student. RPTV News reporter Fred Alvarado interviewed Artistic Director Laurence Lemieux to know more about the children's dance program.
The Citadel Dance Program is a weekend program that was started in 2012, and it offers free dance education for youth living in Regent Park. It is well, not completely free. There's a $25 registration fee, but that's just for the whole year. But everything else is free if you live in Regent Park and if you can show a proof of residency from Regent Park. And we offer classes we have creative dance class, ballet classes, tap dance class, and Bharatanatyam classes. And it starts at 4 years old all the way to 12 years old.
And when was the Citadel Dance Program established in Regent Park?
Well, the Citadel Dance Program started in 2012, but the first year where we ran it, there was very few students. I think there was 1 or 2. But now we have a nice group of students and very good teachers. And twice a year there are performances, so the parents are welcome to come and see their kids' youth dance, one in December and one in May. And it's really good. The kids really love the program. It's good exercise. You get to develop like coordination skills, musicality, working with a team. Yeah, it's a really nice program. I think the idea that we're a dance company and we have a dance program, we have like shows, professional dancers come in and out of this building a lot. So we thought it'd be really great for the kids to actually have an opportunity to learn dance. And we know that dance could be very costly too. Like if you're a family, I mean, I have kids myself, and when they were doing dance classes, like sports or like equipment, everything costs a lot of money. But it's also important that they get to do things other than just going to school. And what's good about dance is that it develops their sort of coordination. Moving is always good because we know it's healthy. And I think for self-esteem, like feeling good about yourself, it's a good thing to do. Also, it's not very competitive, so there's not too much pressure put on the kids. It's more about enjoying dancing, learning about dancing, and eventually, if they want to pursue their studies, we are very well connected within the city to guide them towards whichever more like serious schools if they wanted to do, because the dance program is actually, it's recreational, so it's not a professional program, so they just get to know a little bit about dancing, and if they really, really like it, then we will let them know why you should try this school or that school. So that's what we do.
And who can apply for the Citadel Dance Program?
Anyone can apply. In fact, if you live in Regent Park, it is, as I said, completely free except the $25. However, we found out that some families that live outside of Regent Park, Moss Park, the areas, and if they need financial assistance to pay for the tuition, we do case by case, and basically we never refuse a student because of financial reasons. So yeah, like don't hesitate. Also, if the kids are not sure, they could come in and try a class and then see whether they like it or not. So we're very open to all sorts of alternatives for the families.
Who are the instructors or teachers of the program?
The instructors, they change sometimes depending of scheduling, but they are all professionally trained instructors in their field. So we have a specialized tap dance teacher because, for example, I do contemporary dance, but I wouldn't know what to do with tap dance. So we have a teacher that teaches exclusively tap dancing, and we also have the shoes here. So the parents don't have to buy shoes. We lend them the tap dance shoes. Same with the slippers and the tights or whatever they need. And we have a specialized teacher in for ballet and one for Bharatanatyam, which is a less maybe known form of dance, but it's a very well-known form of dance from India, South Asian, sort of traditional Indian dance. So Bharatanatyam is really interesting because it develops a lot of the rhythms, which is similar to tap dance. Developed like counting skills because you have to really count the music, and like the eyes, the face, the fingers. So it's a really, really interesting class, and most of our kids they do tap and Bharatanatyam because it's one after the other.
And at the end of the program, do you have like a performance? Or
Yes, yeah, we do. We have a performance in December, usually around the second week of December, and then we have a final performance in May when the program ends.
Lastly, how important are dance programs like this and the arts in general to our local community?
Well, really, really important because we all know that some of the public schools they don't offer as many extracurricular activities. So if a kid is interested in dancing, they might not find that in their local schools. So this is why we feel it's really, really important that parents are given an opportunity to enroll their kids in other things than just going to school. And also having free access to another form of education, this one's dance education, is really, really important because it shouldn't just be about if you have the money, then you can do that. It should be available, and unfortunately it's not always available in schools. And if you go to other dance schools, it will be a lot more expensive. Like we're talking about the thousands of dollars, because I know. So who can afford that? So like this is really why we started the program, because I started it because I really believe that any kid who lives here, wants to dance, should be able to do it. As I said, if they want to become a professional, then they would have to sort of go to more specialized schools. But even those schools, they can have tuition or scholarship if based on sort of talent. So it's completely possible to train as a dancer and make a life being a dancer and not have to break your bank account. If you have neighbors or friends living in Regent Park, and just tell them that the program is there for them. We just started last weekend. Registration are still open, so it's not too late if you come back next Saturday. It starts at 9 a.m. You can check out our website, which is www.citadelcie.com, and you can see all the information and the registration form, which is very easy. So just tell people we still have room for most of the class, but soon enough they will be full and then it'll be too late.
2 Brampton men charged with second-degree murder in the connection with shooting in the area of Sherbourne and Dundas Street. 2 men have been arrested and charged in the connection with the downtown Toronto shooting that took the life of 33-year-old man last month. The shooting took place on September the 16th at approximately 2:45 a.m. in the area of Sherbourne and Dundas Street, according to a Toronto Police news report. Investigators alleged 2 men approached a group of people and began shooting into the group. 4 men were initially reported injured, one of whom was later pronounced dead. Police identified the victim as 33-year-old Kyle Provo. They also announced that 48-year-old Richard Baker and 37-year-old Nathan Bell, both of Brampton, have been arrested and charged with 1 count of second-degree murder each. They made their first court appearance in Brampton on September the 28th and September the 29th, respectively. This investigation is currently ongoing. Anyone with any information is asked to contact the police.
Events and job opportunities in Regent Park community. October Fun Fest on Saturday, October 28th from 12 to 4 p.m. at the Bake Oven in the Big Park. There will be BBQ, halal, pumpkin patch, pumpkin carving, candy, face painting, apple crisp, DJ, and dancing. Hope to see you there. Our Fair Share and Farmers Market. Our Fair Share is on a mission to make food accessible for everyone. Join the Pay What Choose Market to get a surprise assortment of produce and you choose your price. The market will open Thursday, October 26th and November 9th and 23rd from 3 to 7 p.m. at 190 Carlton Street, Toronto. Regent Park Tech Lending Library is providing Regent Park residents access to laptops, tablets, and fast internet. Open 7 days a week from 1 to 7 p.m. at Daniel Spectrum, 585 Dundas Street East. Please bring ID and proof address. For more information, contact rpna.techlibrary@gmail.com. TCHC and Tridal calling all small business owners in Regent Park. Are you a Regent Park resident with a small business? Do you offer catering, photography, create handmade goods, or other goods and services? Join their small business directory and get connected to business opportunities in the community. If you have questions, email csr@tridal.com.
And that's all for today's show, folks. My name is Kedar, and my co-hosts are Jabin, Fred, and we would also like to thank our team of researchers that contributed to this week's show. And from our studios at Focus Media Arts Center, thank you for watching. We'll see you all next week.
Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And please follow our social media platforms. For more information, check out our website.